Welcome back. And we had more action today in the round robin. And yeah. So, all honesty here, Tampa Bay is a team that I think is going to go pretty far in the playoffs. And Colorado, I've been picking as Stanley Cup finalists since before the season started. So, Tampa Bay, a team that has the determination to take that next step, I think, after what happened last year. And Colorado, a team that looks like they're on the verge of something big. Not 100% surprised with the results today. Let's jump in. Tampa Bay, Boston Bruins. Boston, if I had to laugh at the start of this, Doc Emmerich said, well, if the Bruins win, they still have a chance to be first in the round robin. And I said out loud, nope. There's something off with Boston, and I got the feeling like they started getting it together in this game, but by the time they got it together, you're already behind. So Rask is in net for the Bruins. Apparently he had a cough. So he had a cough, and they tested him. He tested negative, so it's fine. We'll come back to that when we get into the Dallas game as well, but Rask was okay. Still no Kasha, though. Andre Kasha hasn't played. They want him to get into the next game against Washington. I'm not sure why, because Washington has made a living off beating Boston, so not sure how that's going to make him feel better. And Ruda was in, Bogosian out for Tampa Bay. Early on, Lauzon takes a hooking penalty, and the Bolts go to the power play. Now, during that power play, Tuukka Rask denied Shattenkirk, and Rask seemed to be on. He played pretty well. Tampa Bay controlled the first 5 minutes. The Bruins had an attack of their own, and Vasilevsky denied Pasternak. Pasternak, decent game. I really wish they'd stop calling him the perfection line. This has gone on for a long time. Again, for long-time subscribers, you know I don't like the Bergeron line being called the perfection line because they're not perfect. There's no such thing as players, lines that are perfect. Closest you're going to get is, Crosby, McDavid. I mean, and even then, there are going to be people going, they're terrible defensively. So there is no such thing as perfection. It's not a thing. Drives me insane. Odd man rush led to the first goal of the game, which is Braden Point from Kucherov and Palat at 7:33. That line continues to be really good while they're still waiting on Stamkos. Stamkos may very well be ready, but they don't want to risk it, and they don't need to either. Tampa Bay's in a pretty good position here. The Bruins, at that point, I say they're going to be the number 4 seed. They get a too many men on the ice penalty. Tampa goes to the power play. This is their first power play of the round robin because they had none in their first game against Washington. So it was nice of Boston to give them a little bit of a chance to practice their power play and score. Killorn scores from Hedman at 10:32, so that was nice. And the compete level, it was all in favor of Tampa and that at that point in the first period. Krug then has a fight with Coleman. And the funny thing is, you would think that I would say, oh, well, Krug's standing up for himself. All I could think was, that's a good idea that our best offensively minded defenseman for special teams gets into a fight with a guy who could hurt him. Coleman could. So that's how I felt about that. And then Point and McAvoy have a bit of a scrum. Point took 4 minutes out of that, so the Bruins get a power play. Boston had a trickler that got through Vasi, but it was cleared out. So it's still 2-0 for Tampa after one. Second period, early Bruins power play, solid penalty kill by Tampa Bay. Bruins, I thought, were better in this period. It's pretty evenly played. The intensity between these two teams is not like the regular season. Regular season, these teams really hate each other. Vasilevsky stopped a late chance for Coleman. However, McAvoy would get the Bruins on the board with a goal from Krug and Bergeron at 16:43. And then there's a late push by Tampa Bay before McDonough gets sandwiched right around the buzzer, as these players seem to want to make up for not having any injuries by creating as many as possible the first week that they're back. Third period, Wagner scores early from Chara to tie it at 1:47. And then the Bruins get a power play. It's Kucherov with the penalty, and on the power play, they didn't get anything going. However, there's another scrum, and this felt more like it. This felt more like Boston Bruins hockey. This felt like a team that was finally waking up, and they were back to, it's 2-2, and here we go. And then Barclay Goodrow with an elbow on Bjork leads to a power play. I'm going to weigh in on this in case there's Bruins fans that think that Barclay Goodrow should be suspended or anything done. I don't think anything's going to happen with this. Again, it's another day in hockey, so we're going to discuss who should or shouldn't be thrown out of the game. But I don't think we're going to see. It was an unfortunate incident. Hopefully Bjork is 100% after this game. But, it happens. And it was just the positioning of it. So we'll see what happens, but I don't think anything does. Both goaltenders were sharp. The Bruins woke up. And then the Bolts made a push with 4 minutes left. Tampa just wanted it more. And it showed up. Tyler Johnson, a guy, if you want a key goal for Tampa, Johnson's probably your guy. Yanni Gourde and Alex Killorn with the assists at 18:33. So Killorn with a goal and an assist in this game. The Bruins take a timeout with 26.3 seconds left. It is a timeout that doesn't have any success. The Bruins lose this one 3-2. Tampa Bay outshot by Boston 9-8 in the first, but outshot them going forward after that. 11-9 in the second, 16-9 in the third, 35-27 were the shots in favor of Tampa. The hits were 31-28 in favor of the Bruins. Power plays, Tampa goes 1 for 2. Boston was listed as 1 for 5. I don't think either of these goals were power play markers, but all right. Vasilevsky 25 for 27 in his saves, and Rask 32 for 35 in his. So Boston's 0-2. They cannot finish first. The most they can hope for is that the Capitals lose in regulation against Philadelphia, and then they beat Washington to get 2 points to Washington's 1. They're playing with fire, because if they end up being the number 4 seed, they're going to end up either against either Pittsburgh or Carolina. And if Pittsburgh gets knocked off by Montreal, and that game's very close right now, if they get knocked off if Pittsburgh gets knocked off and Boston plays Carolina, I don't see Boston with their lack of focus right now being able to beat the Carolina Hurricanes, unless they can do like the ultimate playing possum. But again, I have some concerns. Last up, the other game of the day in the round robin was Colorado and Dallas. And this right off the hop. And the funny thing is, the shots were pretty close throughout the game, but it didn't feel like it. It didn't feel like this was a game that Dallas had much of a shot in. So Hudobin and Harley were both in the game. And they were both in the game because Klingberg and Bishop were declared unfit to play before the game started. So we can all debate about what's going on there. It may very well be, as Tuukka Rask was, where they have a cough and they got to be out until they get the negative test, and maybe it was just they didn't have time to have that test come back negative. Lindell takes a penalty early on. The Avs get a power play as the Stars have another slow start. Makar scores on the power play from Landeskog and Kadri at 3:19. And there you go. So the last game against Vegas, slow start for Dallas, slow start here as well. And it feels like when you're fighting out of a losing hole, like the Rangers went through this, right? Where in games 1 and 2 with Lundqvist, they allowed a goal on the first or second shot, and your team is left kind of struggling, trying to figure out, all right, so how are we going to do this? Hudobin was under siege when the Avs got in there. McKinnon played absolutely great today. Every time he had the puck, it looked like he was going to put it in the back of the net. Francouz had a pretty solid start as well. Do not overlook Francouz. Francouz is a very good goaltender. Stars take a penalty. The Avs go back to the power play with Sagan in the box because Sagan wants to get on the score sheet, and since he can't do it with a point, he'll get on there with penalty minutes. McKinnon kept pushing the play during that power play. And just after the power play ended by 1 second, so as Sagan's getting on the ice, Donskoy scores from Girard and Burakovsky at 15:29, and it's 2-0 before the end of the first period. Girard takes a penalty. The Stars get a late power play. That would not be a common thing today, Dallas getting power plays. They don't score on them, obviously. Second period, early Stars penalty. The third Avs power play, it's a penalty to Hintz. So just in general, Dallas was having its struggles. The shots were near even at that point, but the Stars didn't have the finish. And the Avs had some sloppy play. There was definitely some defensive miscues going on out there where if Dallas had been a little quicker to the puck, if Radulov, Sagan, Ben. Where are these guys? Where are these guys? This is the statement I've been making all year about Dallas, that you need more from Sagan, Ben, and Radulov. And there have been Stars fans who've been mad at me, like, nope, they play well. I don't know what you're talking about. Nope, this is just, it doesn't work. Harley was generating chances, I thought, in his debut. I thought, he didn't play a ton of time, didn't get a ton of minutes, but I thought Thomas Harley did pretty well. I thought for a debut that wasn't too bad. It's just up against Colorado. Good luck, kid. Francouz denied Lindell. The Stars playing pretty well, but Francouz was fantastic in that second period, and then the puck goes the other way, and guess what happens? Nemesnikov puts it in the back of the net. From McKinnon and Rantanen at 17 minutes and 30 seconds. It's easy to forget. Nemesnikov was added at the deadline, right? Momentum swung right back to the Avs on that one, and it would stay there. 10 seconds left. Janmark takes a penalty. The Avs go to the power play. That would go over to the third period. In the third period, Burakovsky scores on the power play from Girard and Donskoy at 1:31. And at that point, you got to feel for Hudobin. Like, it's 4-0. And it's not his fault. These are not goals that were easy saves or anything like that. Radulov then takes a penalty, because why not? He's got to get his name on the score sheet. The Avs were way ahead on shots. The Stars looked completely finished at that point. Landeskog took a penalty. The Stars get a power play. Perry had a breakaway. Corey Perry had a breakaway. He's denied on the breakaway. And your final score is 4-0. Shots 14-13 in the first in favor of Colorado, 13-8 Colorado in the second, 13-6 Colorado in the third. Final shots 40-27. The hits were 45-22 for Dallas because they didn't have the puck. Power plays, Colorado went 2 for 5. I would say 3 for 5 since that Donskoy goal was 1 second after the end of the power play. And Dallas 0 for 2. So they only had the 2 opportunities. They just weren't driving enough of the play to make Colorado take penalties. Francouz, 27 saves for a shutout. Hudobin, 36 saves on 40 shots. Another rough day. The one thing I will say, though, is at least when I watch these now and I'm doing up boards, I'm like, you know what? If I didn't have a channel, this would just be straight up depressing watching Boston and Dallas. But knowing I have a channel, I get to do reviews for you fine people and share in my disappointment. It makes me feel a little bit better. It does. And, it definitely lowers the expectation going to the playoffs. But for people, again, who are following along, I haven't picked Boston to make the Stanley Cup final. I haven't picked Boston to win a Stanley Cup. I also haven't picked Dallas to go very far. Dallas's lack of goal scoring has been problematic, and it showed up again. So they have one more tune-up against St. Louis. Colorado finishes things out against Las Vegas. And for Tampa Bay, they're against Philly, and that game will be to decide the number 1 seed in the East. So they have something to play for, and that should make for an intense game. And depending on, if Tampa Bay, I guess it's still possible. If Philly loses against Washington, then Tampa wouldn't have to win in regulation. All right, well, there's still some tension in that game between Tampa and Philly, I would think. Probably. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, though, when it comes to figuring out what's going to happen in the next game between Philly and Washington, which should be fun. And it'll be tomorrow. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.